fuck it. I'm fucking screwed. Yes, ma'am.
Tell me your name again.
It's Sean Schwartz.
John Schwartz?
Sean Schwartz. I went down to the DA's office today and the courthouse, and they sent me to like 7 different places and gave me like 11 different phone numbers to call.
Do you write all that down when they do that?
I recorded on my YouTube channel. I have actual video evidence of these situations and audio recordings.
Do they know that you're recording them?
Yes, they do, and that's the worst part is that they know that they're blatantly breaking the law.
Hang on a second. I've already your name. What's your name?
Sean Schwartz. SHAWN. WN. No, Sean.
Oh, Sean.
The Irish variant. Yeah.
Sean Schwartz.
SCHWARTZ. Yeah, they committed a few felonies today. 42. I was born October 18th, 1980. Anyway, the DA's office told me that I needed to call 911 to turn this in, and then the officer came out. It was very disrespectful, but he talked nice. Like
very disrespectful.
The way that he talked to me and talked over me were very disrespectful, but he was very nice about it. But he told me he was threatening me with...
I can't hear what he's saying.
I'm just saying something.
I'm sorry.
The DA's office instructed me to call 911. So I called 911, and then they threatened me for calling 911. Told me not to call 911.
Why did they told you not to call 911?
Yeah, after the DA's office told me to call 911. They told me that's not what 911 is for. I'm an at-risk adult out here being abused by law enforcement and TFCC. I'm sent to all these other agencies by the police. These agencies that are supposed to help me to advocate for myself and my rights. They're not doing it. Instead, they have me go to therapy over and over and over again, and they want my Oregon State Medicare card. They're committing Medicare fraud instead of doing their jobs as mandated reporters.
Okay. Have you applied for?
They're slamming you.
Have you applied for housing?
I have actually.
So are you on the list? Are you?
No, they're not going to put me on the list because of abuse in the state of Nebraska, where law enforcement did the same thing. That's the thing about law enforcement. Once you've been assaulted by a law enforcement officer, but you've been charged with assault, it goes on your arrest record. And every officer that you run into after that treats you with complete and total disrespect. They might talk nice to you and even smile.
Okay, so were you convicted of assault?
Nope. They had to drop all the charges. They keep pressing charges. Every time that I try to turn them in, they press charges against me on something bogus, and then they hold me as long as they're legally allowed to, sometimes more, and then they drop me off again.
Exactly.
Yeah, have you talked to?
No, you need to go above them.
Have you talked to?
Never mind.
Gus.
Gus?
Yeah, Gus Apodaca. He drives a silver car and he drinks Pepsi. They've done the similar things to him.
Well, they're doing it to a lot of people. The thing is, when I go in, I always have to try to turn it in alone, and I try to encourage people out here who are telling me to go turn it in, to go in with me so that I don't get a repeat of what happened today and what happened last week.
Sean Schwartz.
Sean?
Schwartz.
Sean.
I don't remember that.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry
You have
this
to
is happening
understand,
to you. So I don't know.
I've mentioned you many times.
I don't know what I can do about it yet, but I'll see what I can do.
Yes,
So-
ma'am. If somebody who is on the streets and understands what's going on, other people who are going through similar things, especially disabled and at-risk adults. If you're
Amen.
disabled or elderly and in an at-risk situation, which homelessness is, then there's certain laws and protocols they're supposed to follow. They're neglecting those laws and protocols for all of us.
Okay, so
You're exactly right, man.
is there any kind of legal service
Exactly
in
right.
Tillamook?
He just told you.
There's not. The problem is that without going in together, none of that works out. That's why they tell you when you're an at-risk or disabled adult or an elderly adult that you're supposed to go to friends or family first, because it's always a bad idea to go in alone. You will be lied to, you will be downtrodden, they will talk over
Yeah.
you. It's horrible. It's worse than being raped, and I've been through both, so I can
Sean?
speak from experience.
John,
Sean.
Sean. It means straight up. Let's shit on you.
I know.
I'm not kidding you. Which I
If you
haven't
cry,
heard
I'm
my
gonna
fucking-
cry.
What?
If you cry, I'm gonna cry.
No, I won't cry. What I'm trying to do is figure out what I can do about it, because right now I don't have any authority. And you're right, you need someone with authority.
Well, before somebody with authority will get involved, a friend or family member has to care enough to speak up. So somebody with absolutely no authority
Do you
has
have
to
any
be there.
family?
I don't.
Amen.
My friends
You
and
hit
family are
that
drug
right on the
dealers
head
and
of
drug
the nail.
addicts. Those
You
are the
hear
only
that?
people who ever accepted me. Most of the homeless people here are drug addicts. I don't have any friends or family here. I'm here fleeing abuse elsewhere, where people separated me from my friends and family. Social isolation, which is a form of abuse.
Do you do any drugs?
No, ma'am. I smoke cigarettes and I drink coffee. Upon occasion, I do smoke pot. Like if I'm having to go to a dual diagnosis clinic, they don't take somebody who's sober. So I'll smoke pot before I have to go into a dual diagnosis clinic in case they have to have me do a whiz
That
quiz.
works.
There's also if I have to work with the homeless community, and most of the homeless community here, as you probably know, are on drugs.
Are you
So they're not.
Jewish?
Yes and no. My family are Christian, but of Hebrew descent on both sides. On my mother's side, on my mom's side, and also my grandmother's side, on my dad's side, it's
A
they're all
name
they're
is
all
Jewish
Jewish
name?
descent. Yes.
John, right?
Schwartz. You can
What?
call me John because you've informed me of your injuries, and
You heard
I understand.
100. I can't remember.
Can I
Especially
ask?
name.
Can I ask Schwartz is a Jewish name, right?
It is. It's a
So,
German Jewish
What
name.
is the other
That's
Jewish
German.
name?
Well, my mother's maiden name was Bruns.
What is it?
Bruns. Bruns. It's another German Jewish name.
Yes, it is.
I'm gonna write that down. Not the reason being, there's certain Jewish names that might be targets, and because of Bruin, you said
Bruns.
Bruns, Bruins.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And
How long you been homeless?
what's the other one?
Schwartz is the other last name.
Okay,
and
those are the
then
only two.
Schwartz?
I'm not sure what all of the other. Gross was another one. My grandmother,
What is
great
it?
grandmother Gross,
Gross?
Gross. That is also another German Jewish name. It's also a Danish Jewish name.
How long have you been homeless?
Off and on since I turned 18. I turned 18 about 5 years before they made the No Child Left Behind laws, where they have to, if they're going to drop you off at 18, they have to give you an ID and a social security card and birth certificate, but they dropped me off with nothing, and then my credit history was screwed by the time the program came out,
Do you
and
have
they
any
wouldn't accept
college?
me. No, ma'am.
So, did you finish high school?
I did. I got a
Where-
GED and a high school diploma.
Whereabouts?
Chapel, Nebraska.
Do they have bad feelings for Jews
You
in
left
Nebraska?
there?
Yes,
You know
very
how
much
nice
so.
it
But
is
that's not what
there
they called me.
now?
They called me N-word lover because I stuck
Oh
up
my
for black people.
God, it's nice there.
Okay. So,
Oh,
I didn't hear a word of what you said. You said that in Nebraska they what?
They call me N-word lover because I moved from the system to being stuck in Chapel, Nebraska, where it's all white people, and they just said the N word all day, and I'd say I don't like that word, so they'd call me N word
Oh,
lover.
no
Okay,
kidding.
so are you referring to nigger?
Yes, ma'am, I don't like that
Do
word
you
though.
have any black people in your family?
Way back. My first ancestors, I don't have any verification of this. What I was told is that my first ancestors
You
in this
want to hear
country
something funny?
were black people, and then a couple of German immigrants got off of a boat. They were handed rifles, told to go shoot, rifles and uniforms, told to go shoot Southerners, and that was during the Civil War, and that was the start of
You
the
want to
Schwartz
hear
family.
something funny? I grew up in, you know where Jimi Hendrix went to school?
No,
Garfield High School in Seattle.
Pappy Boyington went to Tacoma High or to Lincoln High School.
Lincoln High, Lincoln High, that's where I graduated from. Piece
Well,
of shit.
that was the school I was at before I went to Nebraska, and it's 81% minority. So for going from that to going to a bunch of
I
ignorant
went to
rednecks was weird.
96% black. And I was a Harrell.
And then there's Stadium High School, our
And you don't fuck with
rivals, and there was
Harrells.
only 6% minorities there.
Well, just so you know, if you don't already, the Jewish high priest for Judaism is called a Nazi, not Nasi. I don't know how it's pronounced. It's Nasi. So Nazi is actually a replacement, in a sense, for that name.
Like what they did with the swastika, taking a Buddhist and Jewish symbol and making it a different
That was a
symbol
Jewish
entirely.
symbol?
It was.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, he took that idea because a pilot from Yasta 11 during World War I flew over the hospital that Adolf Hitler was staying in after his injuries, and the pilot was Jewish, and he had a blue swastika painted on the side of his plane because he was Jewish and he was trying to advertise it. But it's also a Buddhist symbol and a Native American symbol.
You know how
The
many people
Anasazi
know
use
that?
it.
That's
Not many.
that's interesting. I didn't know that. So
I'm educated, don't tell anybody. Self-educated mostly, didn't have the money for college.
the hen in the scriptures is something that gathers its chicks under its wings, but a rooster is considered, cocky and whatever. Well, they refer to women sometimes as being, or men sometimes as being henpecked, referring to a woman as someone that pecks rather than gathering. So there's a lot of things that I don't know exactly where they came from, but they're connected to the same thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of people playing word games too. Like the police, instead of calling it torture, they changed the word to pain compliance, which means they are physically harming you, putting you in physical pain to get you to do what they want.
What was that one?
It's called pain compliance,
Uh-huh.
and it's literally torture. It means that they physically harm you, cause you physical pain to get you to do what they want.
Huh. What was that the first word you said to me?
No, the first word was torture.
Oh.
That's literally what it is.
But now they call it pain compliance.
Yes, and that makes it legal somehow. It's kind of like if you are disabled, they will change the word, especially if you're mentally disabled, they'll change the word mentally disabled to mentally ill and use it to deny your rights as a human being. However, somebody who is called mentally ill, any mandated reporter that they speak to is required to immediately turn it in to law enforcement as well as adult protective services, and they're supposed to work together instead of law enforcement sending us to APS sends us to law enforcement sends us to APS. They're not doing their job. They're going out of their way not to.
I didn't hear because we're
Yes, ma'am.
talking at the same time here. So, okay, so pain compliance is a legal term, and you said people aren't supposed to refer to something
They're not supposed, instead of referring to torture as torture, when police officers do
Right,
it,
but
they
what
call it
about the
pain
mentally ill
compliance.
part? I missed that.
The mentally ill part, when they call you, when you're mentally disabled, they can call you mentally ill and use that to justify not listening to you, not taking a report from you. But the problem is, mandated reporters are required by law. If you are a disabled or at risk adult, when you tell them that a crime has been committed against you, they are required by law to turn it in immediately. And none of the mandated reporters have done that.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
I'm not getting it. So if you're mentally disabled, what is it they're supposed to turn in?
Crimes that are committed against you, when you try to turn them into a mandated reporter, that being a police officer,
Oh, so
members
they're
of the
not supposed to
clergy.
call you mentally ill. They're supposed to take the report of what was done to you and turn it in?
Right, they're supposed to assist you in turning it in because you're disabled. If they call you mentally ill, then by law, any allegations of crimes committed against you, they are required by law as mandated reporters, because we're at-risk adults. They're required by law to turn it in immediately to law enforcement and adult protective services immediately.
If
If
you're
not,
mentally ill.
that's right. Or if you're disabled, or if you're 65 and older,
I see. So what
or
they're
if you're a
saying
child.
is that if you're mentally disabled or mentally ill and somebody does something to you, that's a form of discrimination.
It's a form of abuse, and there's
Abuse.
the police and any mandated reporter is
So
supposed to
people
take
aren't
your report
allowed to
immediately.
abuse the mentally ill, is what you're saying.
Nobody's allowed to abuse anybody. The problem is that they're using the mentally ill tag to deny us the right to turn in crimes against us, to
Oh,
treat us
okay,
like
now
we're
it's making
retarded,
sense. Okay.
like we're too stupid to know up from down, left from right.
Ah,
So they're using the term mentally ill in order to, basically, so they don't have to do their jobs.
right.
But the problem is that the term mentally ill means that they have to, because that's what mandated reporters are. They are mandated. If you tell them that a crime is committed against you or a child, it is mandatory that they have to turn it in, or there are legal consequences. If you're a member of the
Then you
clergy,
need to, then somehow you need to get an attorney.
I can't get an attorney without a friend or family member who cares. I went to attorneys first. I followed the instructions of
Seems
the
like that
attorneys.
an attorney would be able to sue.
Not if you're called mentally ill. You need a friend or family member who cares. I'm called mentally ill. I have no friends or family member. Everybody tells me they can't do it. They can't make the time. They've got all this going on. They've got all that going on. And it makes it very complicated. Or with many people out here, they're taking care of alcoholics in their family, or they're taking care of drug addicts in their family, or they're taking care of people who are sick or people who got injured. And, even if they're witnesses to the situation, it's always, I don't have time or I have no power. And then they make no effort. They have no power because they don't try. Their voice means nothing because they don't try speaking.
I see.
So I have to find somebody who cares enough.
Maybe a Jewish attorney.
An attorney won't do it without a friend or family member. That's the thing.
No attorney?
That's the thing about the mentally ill tag. I've probably explained this 4,000 times in the last 6
So
years.
the an attorney won't take you seriously without a friend or family member either?
That's right. Nobody will take me seriously without a friend or family member. And that's what I've been dealing with for the last 6 years. TFCC is supposed to do something about that, but they're not. They're fleecing me.
So did you succeed in getting something put in the paper?
No, I didn't. I had to go in and talk to them alone. I didn't have anyone that would go in with me. I never do. I literally never do. The paperwork that I'm supposed to follow, it's the same paperwork I was given at the hospital as the attorneys were telling me to do before Natalie Bollinger was ever killed. I'm supposed to record everything. I'm supposed to try to turn it in immediately. I'm supposed to go to my friends and family members for help turning it in, because it's assumed that friends or family members care, but they don't care. They get drunk and they get screwed up and they go and rape their children. And like my little brother, my mom helped him to get away with raping his own daughter, but my mom wouldn't lift a finger to help me because I told on her when she ripped Saul off his kids. My mom was a cocaine addict. She didn't care about her kids. She cared about her cocaine. But again, without a friend or family member.
Don't give up. just do what you can every day,
I do.
and then you know
can I
that
ask you
you've
a
done what you
question?
could for that day,
You're
and
wrong.
then pray.
But without a friend or family member, nothing gets
Pray.
done.
Give me a done, man.
Pray. It works, and it may take time.
It doesn't. That's why I quit. All of my Christian friends stabbed me in the back and then used their Jesus as an excuse to do it. My Jewish friends tell me that I just need to mind my business, that I need to go elsewhere, that I need to move. My atheist friends tell me what most of my Christian friends tell me, which is, hey, dude, you should just go shoot them so they can't hurt anyone else. Everybody's ideas are literally everything except for the legal guidelines I have to follow. I have to have a friend or family member before I can go to an attorney, before I can go to the police, before I can go to any of them, especially since I have communication difficulties. They can just talk over me and make a mess of it, and nobody will care. Nobody will be the wiser because nobody listens.
Okay, so you said you're on a housing list, or they won't put you on.
I'm jumping through the hoops for that, but because of a situation that happened in Nebraska, they won't let me have housing. I literally had to break windows in order to try to get the cops to do their job in Nebraska. Here, they're trying to push me to commit felonies or misdemeanors or literally anything that
Just
they can force me to
don't
do.
do it. Just get on the housing list and
That's the thing. They won't put me on the housing list. They keep pushing just the housing. I need to turn in crimes that are being committed against me that have prevented me from getting back into housing. But instead of addressing that issue, they just want to push the housing over and over and over again. I'm going to these mandated reporters because I need them to do their jobs as mandated reporters, not postpone it for as long as possible and say, oh, well, I thought he was just here for therapy. I explain to literally all of them every time. But when I go in alone, they play like I'm fucking retarded and nobody is there to speak up. Nobody is ever there to speak up for me. When they commit these heinous crimes, and they are heinous crimes, there's nobody there to speak up. Ever. Today I had to go in alone. There was a couple of people that offered to go in with me, but they've offered before in exchange for me doing them favors. And then they take advantage of me and leave for hours or even days on end, making me watch their stuff in exchange for they're going to help me. And then they don't help me after they come back, if they come back. I'm just getting taken advantage of out here. I can't sleep because a lot of these high school kids, and they're probably older than high school since they're driving, but they come out here and they terrorize each other every night. These guys going up and down and doing the drag thing every night. Me not being able to go to the churches because the mandated reporters there didn't do their jobs. I mean, it's just killing me.
I know prayer works. Sometimes it takes time, but it works. And
Jesus is not an attorney. He's not a friend or family member who's going to show up at court. He's not going to help me to turn in crimes committed against me.
Temporary. They harass Jesus in the same way.
I'm well aware, and I'm not allowed to say that, or they pretend that I'm delusional and comparing myself to Jesus.
But we're only here for a short time.
I pray every day for my life to end. That's the only thing I pray for anymore. Without a friend or family member to help me to turn this in, there is nothing in my life worth living. It's just abuse, and it's all alone. I have to live in that car with no friends and no family members who care. The only people who call me are people to harass me. Yes, ma'am, I do.
Oh, good. Well, just be careful, because if you park it for more than 24 hours, I got a $250 ticket.
Yeah, that's one of the ways that they screw us over. They're supposed to do something to protect us from this kind of abuse instead of exploiting us as they do. They're not going to stop exploiting you unless you have somebody going with you. What they did there is exploitation. They do the same things to all of us.
Well, here's I'll give it some thought and some prayer, but I don't know at this point if I have enough authority to be helpful to you. I want to make sure if I were to go in.
Every American has the authority. Every single American.
No, it has to be, I mean, we're living in our car. So a lot of people would interpret that as mental illness. And so the problem is complex, I guess you could say.
You're
as
right.
You're describing it. And we just have to do the best we can until things change. And
We need to work together. That's what is lacking here. Everybody says that they can't because they have no authority. Together we are mighty. Alone we deserve everything that we get, including the abuse.
Got that right on
all right,
I
well,
speak up for my friends and family when they're assaulted,
the
because if I don't, their predators are allowed access to them over and over again.
yeah, that's a fact. And there's a lot of people that are complaining about that. I mean, this is a huge problem.
But they're complaining to each other just like we're doing.
Yeah. So,
And thank you for taking care, John. You are absolutely amazing. A lot of people out here, even people in houses wouldn't. You do a good job of taking care of him. And he says so too. Or at least he has on more than one occasion.
well, sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. But it's a labor of love, and so it is what it is. All right.
I better let you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
I talked to them once they're on my channel. Part where you have nowhere to go and then they treat you like a criminal because you have nowhere to go. They don't care where you go as long as it's somewhere else. Oh my god, I am in too much pain. Oh my god. And yeah, her husband is getting up there in years, and so is she. So it's not the easiest thing, you know. Anyway, I'm down to 13% battery, so no making a call now, I guess. That's the thing, I gotta plug in and charge up now.